And it sort of makes you wonder if the female of the one on the right, is like a foster parent sent on the eggs, or I want to know the story.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're live now. So anybody that logs in can hear what we're saying, which is no big deal. We just need to just be aware.
You know,
So
what's interesting is the owl in the middle too. The eye color is different, unless it's just the light. It's a little
does
bit.
look darker. It looks like
Yeah.
it may be the light, but they all have the same light on the right side. It's like it's got smaller eyes.
Yeah. I wonder. Yeah, I'd have to look and see if some of these are long-eared. But
the eyes are different than the one in the middle,
yeah, definitely.
because the left and right are the same. I mean, big round eyes.
Yeah. And the markings are different too on the face a little bit. Interesting.
It's very similar to the same pattern, but it's not the same pattern.
Yeah.
Look at the eyebrows.
Yeah.
It's going to be a different owl.
Yeah. I'm wondering if it's a long-eared.
It's fun to watch them all look at the same thing.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. This is Scott Roberts from the Explore Alliance and Explore Scientific. And today we have a special guest. Kent Martz has found this amazing wildlife photographer, Ms. Sharon G. Fisher. She has a website that I put in the link for this post that you can go to check out her work. But she's She is really a remarkable photographer by any measure, and we're really happy to have her on our program on this edition of On the Wing. I'll bring you guys on. Let's see. Kent, go ahead and make an
Hey, Sharon,
introduction.
thank you for
Hi.
joining us. We appreciate you taking time out of your day. You have some fantastic bird pictures and many from around where you live on the East Coast, but also from around the world. And we really appreciate you joining us to share. You also do some public outreach, which is how we met. You were looking for some binoculars, and I hooked you up with some really fine pairs of our binoculars that are way more than just toys. I think have you gotten the package yet?
I have, and they are wonderful little binoculars. So thank you. I'm so glad that I was able to reach out to you. It's going to make all the difference in the world, giving children real binoculars that they can focus on and begin their love of birds and wildlife.
And it was just a little bit more money. The difference between what you were looking at and real, honest to gosh, good glass metal binoculars was a couple of bucks. So anyway, so let's go ahead and get started. Let's not take any more time. Well, actually, tell us about yourself just a little bit first.
Well, maybe I'll share my screen a little bit while I'm doing it.
Sure, go ahead.
My love of photography began when I was in high school. And really, my first camera was given to me by an uncle who was a World War II photographer. And from that, I started taking pictures in high school and developing them, and then got busy.
What was the camera? What was the camera?
The first camera was a Minolta.
101?
Yeah.
That's what I started on.
Yeah.
Yep.
A great
Actually,
film.
I started with a Minolta 102. Dad let me use his 102. Yes. I was uptown with that thing. So, all right, go ahead.
So that started my real love of photography, and then also being able to combine it with a love of nature. And I had an opportunity with my career to be able to travel, and did some consulting work for the US State Department. And it took me to some wonderful places and other places I've been to on my own. And I wanted to capture those moments and be able to educate people on the natural world. And so, and it's important to do it locally as well as in other places.
All right, let's go. Let's see some beautiful, they are beautiful pictures.
So the first thing I like to talk about is why photography. And, at the very basic level, sometimes I have a camera with me and I'll snap a picture to be able to identify a species so that I can later on learn more about the species. Photography, more than anything else, is telling a story. And this is a young penguin with a woman that I was on a trip with to the Falkland Islands. And I just love this little interaction between the two of them. And then the picture on the right, where I say to save a species, I was in Uganda, and we went looking for chimps. And the park ranger, I asked, what's the most important thing that you don't have that you would like to have? And he said, a camera. We haven't documented the different chimps that are in the forest here. And so I managed to send him a camera, and using social media, he would send me pictures of the chimps and a description of those chimps. And we put together a little guidebook, and I sent it back to Africa, because, pictures and what you're doing really should educate and should make people really love the different types of things in their environment. And also, pictures are for fun. For me, one year, the end of 2020, I think we were all feeling, we were happy to see it go. And these turkey vultures were sitting on a branch in my neighborhood. And I said, I have the perfect idea of what to do with those turkey vultures. And so I was able to put my New Year's card on the turkey vultures.
So basically you're saying that 2020 was a carcass of a year.
Yeah. And it was good to have celebrated going. But being able to do things locally, that was a great experience for me too. And then the other thing is I like to, and with my husband, do some poetry and put together things that make some of the pictures fun. So on the right hand side, this hawk was sitting looking at the birds in my neighborhood, and there's a type of poetry that are haikus, which are 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables. So this one says, quietly she sits, an assassin in the tree, little birds beware. So just a sort of fun way of doing it. And then one Christmas I had to take the poison dart frog and make him into Santa's sleigh. So, what you can do with photos is sort of endless. Just a little bit about what it's like to be a photographer. This is a picture of me coming back onto a ship in Svalbard in the Arctic. And it was soaking wet raining, but it was great to be out there. And a lot of people on the ship, they stayed in, but not me. The elements are nothing to stop going out and getting a good photograph.
So I'm going to say you believe the adage, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing and bad preparation.
Bad gear. Yeah. I've been to negative 40-degree wind chill centigrade up in the Arctic, and everything was fine until the back of the camera hit my nose and got a little frostbite. But and when you're really intensely looking at wildlife, sometimes the elements just don't bother you at all. And so the next pictures show a marsh that I go to nearby, and a friend of mine set up a really great blind to do photography. And the blind is under that tree in the left-hand picture. And this is what it's like sitting in the blind. It's muddy. We get there before sunrise. My waders, we have to go chest deep in water in the cold, but there's nothing like waking up in a marsh and hearing the sound of birds in the marsh waking up. It's just the most fabulous feeling.
Yep, absolutely. Been there. And, the mud and the smells, is part of that experience. And then the sky beginning to lighten up, and you hear a flock of ducks fly by, and then a flock of geese come in, and, a spot songbirds. It's just, marshes are spectacular places, very often maligned, and people want to fill them in because it's a waste of land. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're just so filled with life. And so a couple of pictures that were from sitting in that blind, the one on the left are male and female wood ducks. And my friend's wife put a no fishing sign up, hoping that the kingfishers would land on it. And lo and behold, they were even feeding each other. With kingfishers, the bird on the left is the male and the one on the right is the female. So
that's fantastic.
It was really, it's set up beautifully with nice backgrounds, and just to be there is just a real joy.
And you're a master, obviously, of depth of field. You're managing your depth of field and your shutter speed. What are you shooting with right now?
That was taken with the Canon R5, which is mirrorless, with a 600 millimeter lens on the R5.
Are you shooting automatic and letting it do it, or are you shooting manually? What are you doing?
Oh, full manual.
Full manual. So
Yeah.
you're still have you been able to continue to look at something and go, that's F 5.6 at 250? Is that ability still there, or do you trust the meter and then go from there?
There's certain adjustments you need to make to the meter to understand light. The amazing things about the mirrorless now is that they do simulate a little bit of what the end picture is going to look like, somewhat. And there's, for people who are advanced in photography, I'm able to see my histogram in the viewfinder.
Mhm.
So I'm constantly looking at, particularly with birds like that, exposing for the highlights and getting the details without overexposing, just that perfect.
It's backwards from from film photography, because it's slide photography. For those of us have done it, if you overexpose a slide, you're done. But if you underexpose a slide, there's ways to deal with it. So I always tried to not work hard when shooting slide film to not overexpose it, because if the data's not there, the data's not there. Just like in digital, if you've blown it out, there's nothing you can do to save the picture. So I consciously try to underexpose just a wee bit, just to protect myself from that.
Yeah, there's different theories. If you look at it, depending on the light, if you expose a little bit to the right, you're getting more data, you're getting more dynamic range, and you can, without totally overexposing.
Right.
So I thought I would take you around the world a little bit.
Hang on a second. Let's see. Hey, Scott, are you there? You want to give a shout out, Scott? He may have, there was somebody outside his office. He may be talking to him. All right, so go on. He's not there. Let's go on.
Okay, so one of the bird species that is really special is different species of cranes. And I purposely went to Bhutan, which is this incredible country north of India, to see the black-necked cranes that come over the Himalayas. And we had this incredible experience, myself and my guide, just being in the marsh when the black-necked cranes woke up in the morning. And even though he had grown up there, he had never experienced seeing these cranes get up and start their daily routine. They're just a beautiful, incredible bird, and it was a great experience. So also in the family of cranes,
How big are they? How big are these birds?
they're most cranes stand about 5 foot with a 6 foot wingspan, like bigger than our sandhills, about the size of our whooping cranes.
Okay.
In Japan, the red crown cranes were saved in World War II by the Japanese feeding them, and they're a beautiful crown. They have the red crown and the black bustle. They roost in water overnight. They're really, really pretty. They're a little bit smaller than the blacknecks and our cranes. They're very, and they're very symbolic for people in Asia in terms of longevity and life. And it was just a really special place. And also in Japan, we went out on the ice drifts almost to Russia, and there are stellar sea eagles. There's been one reported in Maine this year,
Right.
very far from home.
Caused a big stir, and I've heard of people traveling across the country just in hopes of seeing, catch the glimpse and adding it to their life list, which they probably will never get a chance to otherwise,
Right.
unless they travel somewhere else, right?
Yeah, but they're just, you look out on these ice drifts and they're just sitting on the ice drifts. They're a beautiful bird. Yeah, that poor Steller sea eagle ended up going to Massachusetts and then to Maine. But
they say that the Stiller sea eagle is to a bald eagle what a bald eagle is to a red-tailed hawk, size-wise, significantly larger.
that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that about what you'd say? That's what I've heard.
I would agree with that.
Hey, hang on a second. So Scott had to go to another meeting that came up. So I've taken over. I can see this. I can see YouTube and Facebook. So I'm gonna give a shout out to people real quick. Hey, Chris Larson, Pekka, how you doing? Pekka lives in Sweden, and he notes that most of the birds have left for safer and sunnier grounds because they're not there. Chalk Staff from Shenandoah from England is with us. We have this community built up around our shows, and everybody has become very good Facebook and personal friends. And I know they talk offline. And so Pekka, and this is off of Facebook. Pekka, has anyone seen a bald eagle that have machine guns under their wings? And I don't know. That's a cartoon bird, I think, Pekka. So let's see. I can't get my screen. What's going on here? My screen won't scroll. Okay, so let me go to YouTube. That was YouTube. Okay, so go on, and I'm gonna get our Explore page back up, or Facebook back up. Oh no, there it is. I got Facebook. That was Facebook. Okay, so okay, I've got the Restream bot going on Facebook. I can see this. Scott's a master. Beatrice Hines from Belgium is with us. Hi, Beatrice. Good to see you back. Mike Wiesner, as always, is with us. Looks like Richard Grace is with us. The dad frequency says, oh, yellow, all yellow, back to you. I'm looking through. Norm Hughes is with us. Hey, Norm. It's a hard list to read. Tariq from the UAE is with us. So we're having a global audience. Good to see. Senthil Nagapan is with us, and I'm not sure where he's from. He may be from Senthil. I'm sorry, I can't remember where you're from. Put that in the message so I can get a help show how broad of an audience we get. They're talking. There's side conversations going on, Sharon. People talking about how they got started in photography and what they're doing. This is just
good.
It is a beautiful community. So Martin Eastburn from East Texas, exotic East Texas. So lots of people. All right. So anyway, go on. Let's finish up. Let's get going. I can keep doing shout outs forever because there's about 3 different side conversations going on in there. It's very cool. All right. So Svalbard.
Yeah, that we went primarily to to be able to see polar bears, and particularly be able to be next to polar bears that were swimming. But everywhere that you go, particularly in the Arctic, the scenery was just stunning there, and the Arctic terns were just beautiful. And the amazing thing is the interaction between the polar bears and the Arctic terns. The polar bears will swim from island to island to get the terns' eggs, but they don't take all of them. They will leave some of them. Just really beautiful little birds that are just as important. When you go and you look for a charismatic species, to take in the birds as well as the big mammals, it always makes the trip that much more special for me.
I think many people go on trips and they look at the big picture, but they don't notice the beauty in a square foot on the ground.
Exactly.
There was somebody that the Buffalo National River here in Arkansas was almost 50 years old. It was born in 1972. It turns 50 this year. Somebody went out and on Facebook over the weekend, it snowed here last week, and they went out and took a series of pictures in 1 square meter on the ground. And it was stunning. The pictures they found in 1 3 by 3 foot patch of ground. You know, you think about the waterfalls and the mountains and the beautiful turquoise water, but we don't ever look down and look at the beauty under our feet. And I think that goes with what you're talking about. So, okay. So now we're at 54 South. We're at pretty good, almost in the tip of, even with the tip of South America. And these are, what are we looking at? Penguins here, right?
Yeah, these are penguins. And if you look at the picture in the middle, it may be hard to see over the connection here, is that the all the brown area are these young penguins, and it takes a year before they mature into their beautiful.
Okay, so on my screen, what looks like just brown soil is really brown penguins.
They're penguins, and they're all massed together to keep their body warmth. And this is South Georgia, and it's just this incredible. You land and there's 500,000 penguins in these soaring mountains. One of the most incredible, beautiful places in the world. Just in terms of wildlife.
What species are those bird penguins?
They're king.
King, okay. And
They're not emperors. They look a lot like the emperors, but they're king penguins.
So I've heard that the smell is quite memorable.
Yeah, you know, when it's cold, you don't get it as much. But on the Falkland Islands where it's warmer, and particularly if you're staying on the islands near the different penguin breeding areas, depending on how the wind's blowing, yeah, it can be. They regurgitate fish to feed their young. So
yeah. Harold Locke says that is beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Oh, wow.
So the most adorable penguin is the rock hopper. It really does hop. It really will shake its head and go. It just, they're really great. And you see more of them on the Falkland Islands than you do South Georgia. And they are an incredible, beautiful little bird.
How big are they? How big are they? Sharon, how tall are they?
They're little. They're I would have to, probably I'd say about 10 inches.
So smaller than a crow.
Yeah, definitely smaller than a crow.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And they breed on these cliffs, and you see them coming back from going out to get fish, and a lot of times they have bruises on their chests, and you just the fact that they have to hop down these cliffs, but they need to be up on the cliffs to keep their babies safe from predators. So some of them are on the ground, but most of them are on cliffs. This next picture is also king penguins. There's a small colony of them on the Falkland Islands, not like the 500,000 you get in South Georgia. But this looks like snow, and it's blowing white sand. But this group was just so expressive. They look like, the bad boys of the Falkland Islands, like who's tougher than who. They're just incredible to be near and be able to photograph them. really hard on your camera though when you have blowing white sand.
So is that a nesting site, or were they just chilling out on the beach?
That is a nesting site. It's one on the main island of Stanley. There's a place where you can go. It takes about 2 hours to get there over rough terrain, and but it is a really great site to be able to see king penguins. If you can't get all the way over to South Georgia, which requires a boat and travel and landing, the Falkland Islands are just great for wildlife, and you can stay there. Whereas on South Georgia, you're having to do landings and get back to the ship by a certain time. Here you can be with the penguins at sunrise, sunset. You can walk on the beach. It's just really different. So this is at a place called Volunteer Point. And when we came back, I mean, I had sand everywhere. I had sand between my teeth. I had it in my ears. You have to protect your cameras like crazy, but it's really beautiful. And while we were there, we had sun, we had hailstones, we had a rainbow. We had everything that day. It was incredible.
That's the South. That's Falkland and South Georgia. The Southern Ocean is
Yeah.
that as well. Okay, real quick before we move on, we've got an OMG from looking at the penguins. Cool looking group of whippersnappers. Wow, wonderful. That is fantastic. Well done. Beautiful with the yellow orange colors sticking out. And a Sharon, your pictures are awesome.
Oh, thank you.
And that was just from the penguins. So
That's just the penguin. Yeah.
so is this a
You
green?
sort of can't go wrong with penguins.
No,
though.
you can't. Yeah, but you are managing light and focus, and you're not just taking snapshots. Your composition and sense of the picture you're going to take comes through in the images. You're not just going out and taking what is handed to you. You're creating images through your skills and your preparation.
Well, thank you.
That comes through.
And willing to get dirty and get on the ground with them. And so this picture is also from the Falkland Islands. It's a silvery grebe.
Now, if I asked if that was a grebe. I thought it was a grebe of some sort.
Yeah, but
Look at that eye.
I was just as excited. The eye and the way the feathers come back from. And I've been to the Falkland Islands twice. I like going back to places because then you get over the awe and you can really do it. And I do have some pictures, not here, but with baby grebes on the back. And I get so excited about, the penguins are great, but there's incredible other species too. Falkland Islands, I ran into a short-eared owl. It's like, unexpected.
So let me ask you real quick. How do you focus? Do you do autofocus, or are you focusing yourself?
Most of the time autofocus, particularly birds in flight.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So of all the exotic species that I met in the Falklands in South Georgia, I fell in love with albatross. These are black-browed albatross. I was able to see multiple other ones on South Georgia. The black brows are on the Falklands. There's just something about the interaction between them and the white and the black and they're incredible. I could just spend hours just sitting in with the albatross. You have to get them while they're sitting on eggs or when there's young. But they
because they spend most of their life in the air, right?
Yeah.
A vast majority of their life is spent on the wing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I did see a wandering over the ship and a wandering baby. They are huge. But these birds are incredible. The way they interact, and One would fly out and come back, and they would go through this same ritual of preening and their beaks together, just really beautiful. So what the pandemic has done is really made me refocus on local birds. And I walk around with a camera all the time. The bird on the left is a hooded
Merganser.
Yeah, that I just was able to take this weekend. And the owl on the right was really unexpected. It was in a place I live along the Shenandoah River. And the little screech owl, I go by that tree probably 100 times and nothing's ever been in that tree. And one day the screech owl last week was sitting in that tree, and I never got it with its eyes open, because I will not harass birds for photography. But I was just thrilled. And that's one of the reasons why I walk with a camera all the time, because you never know what you're going to see.
So somebody asked, how close do you get to your subjects?
Birds it depends on the subject. And I do have enough resolution in my camera that I can crop, and I do have a really long lens. So it's a combination of not wanting to disturb wildlife as my number one rule. And then secondly, certain birds are very wary and will not let you get close at all. So with the wood ducks in that blind, we're really sometimes very, very close, though they may walk right near us. But it's two of us being incredibly quiet and having our cameras on the most quiet mode, and not moving. You know, if we see a bird coming, we don't move. We don't open a pocket with Velcro, because you can flush them all out. And particularly ducks, because they're hunted. There are some mergansers along the river here, common mergansers, and if I just cast a shadow, they're gone. They're just, so it really depends on the bird and how much they've been around people.
So these birds we're looking at tend to be birds that are very comfortable around people a lot of times. We're looking at a junco,
Yep.
a white-throated sparrow,
Yep.
another junco,
Hermit thrush.
A hermit thrush, and a brown creeper of some sort. It looks like
Brown creeper.
So I got what, 4 out of 5 there? Not
you
bad.
did well.
Not bad there. All right, I was going with a song sparrow maybe, but a thrush works. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So all these were shot around your house?
Yes. Yep. And I was on the ground for the snow ones, for the hermit thrush and the jonco. I was on the ground. I have something that looks like a Frisbee. That's a ground pod, and I can lie on my belly and do it and use the snow in the foreground to soften it. The creeper was from a distance, and it's cropped, but I love the way it blends into the tree. And I love birds in the snow. The white-throat, it might even have been through my window. I try to keep my windows clean for doing birds out the windows.
I've heard of people who replace their window glass or a pane in their window with optical quality glass, as opposed to just window quality glass. They get a pane of optical quality glass to do exactly what you've done, be able to stay inside, and then the birds don't see you as much, and so you can get more. They don't flush nearly as much. Yeah.
And I always say that that our our one hummingbird that we have, which is a ruby throated, they come usually around mid-April. So they come after I get my taxes done. That's my,
Your reward.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I love, they're around the house, and I just love taking them even in different types of settings, like sitting. We have bluebirds. This is a female bluebird coming in to feed her young, and it's a little bit of shadow on the body, but I'll set up, and the tree swallows are a lot less skittery, but the bluebirds are pretty, they're pretty skittery. You have to be back from them, but I'll just wait and wait and wait and watch them coming in, and I might take 50 pictures and get one with the wings like that and coming in fast.
So Sharon, somebody asked, what software do you use?
I use the Adobe suite. I use Camera Raw to Photoshop, like, and Camera Raw now is looking a whole lot like Lightroom, but
and you shoot, I'm presuming you're shooting in RAW.
I'm shooting in RAW.
Canon RAW or whatever it is, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Because you get more dynamic range and less compression. The Bluebird, to get the wings so that the wings are not blurred on the edges, is 3200 shutter speed. So you need a lot of light, and I'm getting shadow from the roof of the Bluebird house. There's just limit to what you can do.
So this is going to be you have a 600 millimeter, so F5.
Yeah, F4 probably.
F4 wide open at 3200 set 1/3200th of a second.
3200, yeah.
At what ISO? Do you remember or figure?
That was pretty bright. So the ISO is what it has to be to get the speed.
Right.
And
yes, go ahead.
And there's good software these days to take the noise out if you have to, but you can't recover blur. You can deal with some noise.
Right. So this looks like a circle of life picture and a nice deer. You can see the eyeball, but feeding all sorts of birds. I mean, we have to have the cycle of life, and things die for things to eat. Yeah.
And this is another example of walking around with my camera in my own neighborhood. I live in a rural area, and this red-shouldered hawk let me get really close. It was extremely cold out. She did not want to give her meal up, and so I was like in the road waiting to make sure that the delivery truck didn't come over me. And I would scooch up every so often, and she's looking back at me in this picture.
So I need to do a show about the difference between a red-shouldered and a red-tailed hawk, because that's a very often mixed up. I may ask you to use one of your pictures as a comparison. I've done the difference between Carolina chickadees and northern and black-capped chickadees, difference between house finches and purple finches. It would be a good show to just focus on, just that, and talk about the differences in those birds.
Yeah. And in flight, not in flight, I have a bunch of them, but this is definitely red-shouldered because of the chest.
Right. I was going to say red-shouldered, but you beat me to it. So, I really think this is, you look at this picture and you can tell it's a carcass, and, then you catch that, if you pay attention, you catch the eyeball on the far left. And frankly, I think that eyeball is what really makes this picture really, for me, stand out. Now, it may just be a real personal sort of notation, but that eyeball really gives this a different emotional level, emotional impact. So Meow Me responded to this. Is that a hawk? What the heck kind of megafauna do you have here? So I'm not sure where Miami lives. Miami, let us know where you live. Would love to say that as well. And Martin Eastburn says his great aunt, now passed, fed cardinals every day, and they hung around her windowsills. They love cantaloupe seeds. So yeah, there you go. All right, so that's just a beautiful picture. This is cool what you do.
Something about that, and I just and you feel bad, like it was really, really cold, and it was like for here it was 9 degrees Fahrenheit, which is cold for Virginia. But that hawk she was just watching me, and I know it's a female because the female hawks are bigger than the males, and she was fairly big size, and they do nest around where I am. So one of the things I know we're getting on in time that you wanted to talk about is some of the outreach that that I'm involved in too, because I really believe that, I've met a lot of photographers, and a lot of people have great pictures out there, but I really believe that they should be used for educating and for making people love wildlife. So that's how I got involved in a number of different projects. And this example here is I sponsored this little booklet on the gray crown cranes of East Africa. And the reason I was interested in doing that, besides the fact that, this love of cranes that I have and my husband has, when I've been to East Africa, I feel like the people who are there, the children, the village people, they have to love these areas that we're asking them to preserve for all of us who come from other countries to see their worlds. And so being able to help sponsor a book about cranes and get it into the hands of teachers and people who work with nonprofit groups in East Africa was just a really fun thing. And it points out to how do you do outreach? It's giving kids something that's theirs, something that educates them. What this booklet does is it tells them a little bit, not just about cranes, but also wetlands and what they can do to be good stewards of the wetlands, to, how they can preserve things. So this book is out, and it's in a number of languages, including Swahili. I have a Swahili version of it, which is super cool.
And you did it yourself, right? You produced this?
I sponsored this with the International Crane Foundation. So
okay.
I provided help and was involved in the project, but the International Crane Foundation in Baraboo, Wisconsin, is the ones that did it with their East African on-site people.
Yeah, but you put I'm looking at the bottom of this, and it says made possible by a grant from Sharon Fisher. You put your money where your ideas are in this case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you just didn't give them pictures and say, here you go, here's some pictures, you have a great idea. You underwrote at least some of this, and you're to be commended for putting your money where your thoughts are as well. So it's just awesome.
And so locally, we did a program where we built partial bird boxes and had youth finish them and gave them instructions on how best to put them up. We did that with the local library that we're going to be doing this program with the children, with the binoculars that we were able to purchase from you, Kent. And we also did a program. It was Valentine's Day, right before the pandemic. And we had them string little heart-shaped Cheerios on pipe cleaners to make little food for birds. Just anything that you can do to give youth an idea of how to connect, how to observe birds. We have locally along the Shenandoah River, we now have with the library a story walk, and March's story is going to be a children's book on observing birds and being a bird watcher. So that story will sit along the river in these placards for a couple of months. And we're going to kick it off with an event where we again make some different bird crafts, and also be able to do a bird identification. And what I've done is come up with a really easy handout on how to be a good bird watcher, how to use the binoculars, and also pictures of species of the common birds that are along the river there. And knowing that it's with a whole bunch of kids, I'm going to also bring some of the Audubon stuffed birds and put them out and have them practice using the binoculars that way, so that they can get used to it. Also with some local parks, just doing some scavenger hunts where people can find things that relate to birds. We've got quite a few bluebird trails in the area, and so it's really nice to be able to get kids to be able to, from a distance during their breeding season, to be able to watch birds.
Do you participate in the bluebird count every year along the bluebird trail, and where they count the eggs and the fledglings and stuff?
Other people do. I personally am usually pretty busy in the spring, so committing to doing a bluebird trail, that's a little bit more difficult. But the number of bluebirds around here have really improved. The numbers are way up. As well as we're seeing certain local species going up, and a lot of the migratory ones are being more impacted, the ones that, so.
I'm just sitting here watching. Let's give a shout. Norman Hughes notes that there has been a white bald eagle, which is a leucistic bald eagle. It's not albino, on the Sequoia National Wildlife Refuge, which is on the Arkansas River, just across the state line in Oklahoma. And I know one of the photographers who was found at first, and it's caused quite a stir and it's moved on now. It's not there. It's about the time for birds to start heading north, but it caused quite a stir in the birding community around here. Also, Martin Eastburn said there's a bat falcon has been recorded for the first time in Texas, and it's feasting on its namesake, bats. The bird has a reddish underbody, white, yellow ring around its neck, and spotted wings. Medium-sized bird of South and Central America. And I note that 2 weeks ago or last week, someone documented for the first time here in Arkansas, and Pekka, this is for you, a Eurasian tree sparrow, which were released in St. Louis, and there's a active colony in St. Louis and of in a few counties, but obviously the birds are going to spread because they just do such things. But the first documented photographic proof, 100%, you can even tell where it was in the background of the original pictures. So it wasn't like somebody's trying to fake it by having a crop picture and say, oh, I took this in Lonoke County. You can see where it was, and there's solid proof that birds don't respect the boundaries humans draw for them as well. So what's this right here? This your website, right?
Yeah, this is a website. It's not quite up to date. I also do post on Facebook, and I'm just sometimes a little bit lazy about it, but
do you sell your photos?
I give them away mostly.
Yeah. So, well, that's, you might be able to sell some of these. Some of these are fantastic, And what amazes me is this the absolute huge variety of, you know, the right-hand bird on the second row. That's just a cool, it's not a puffin. What is that?
All the way over to the right, it's another penguin.
It's a penguin. Okay.
Chin strap.
Aptly named, as most species are. So we were talking a couple of weeks ago on our astronomy show with a guy who lives in Costa Rica, Tisac Suarez, and we started talking about the birds and things like that. And he sent me you see it right here.
Yeah.
Birds of Costa Rica. And so, you know, I had a minute, so I started thumbing through it. And this book proves that, you know, Costa Rica is a long way off, but an astounding number of birds in that book you see in Virginia, and we see here in Arkansas, and Norm Hughes sees, and the people in California see the same birds. You know, we may be separated by, thousands of miles, but we are interconnected, just, you know, like nerves in our hand are connected to our shoulder. These birds connect all of us into one organism, if you will. I get sort of a really, you know, global.
That's a good way to put it, actually.
It's we're connected. Hey, Scott, we are connected. Hey. We're connected, just like the nerves in our fingers are connected to our shoulder. The birds in Costa Rica are connected to Springdale, Arkansas, and I can't think of where you live, Sharon, in Virginia. A great. It has a
Front Royal, which
Front
is
Royal. I could not come up with it. Yeah, I knew it was 2 words. I couldn't come up with it.
the Shenandoah Valley.
Yeah. So if you could shoot one species, would it be birds?
Birds have the most variety, but the ones I probably love the most are bears.
Bears?
Polar bears, black bears, you know, they're just, I have black bears in my backyard, and I have the most adorable cubs, little guys in a bucket playing that I got on my game cam. You know,
That's awesome.
there's just something about them. They're just super, super cool. Like the guy up, the one on the log there, you know, just, you know, having her hand over her eyes. They just, you know, and being able to be, you know, near polar bears. There's something about polar bears that are just awesome.
Well, and you've got panda bears too. You know, you got panda
bears.
Is that 2 panda bears?
Spirit bears. The genetically white black bears from British Columbia. They're beautiful too.
Well, Tariq in UAE says birds for me. I think, you know, just for the sheer variety and widespread nature of them, birds probably would be the one thing. But, you know, birds and I think people would be a tie for me, because the people pictures you have here have a feeling and emotion to them too. What, Scott?
I said they're amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, what I'm impressed with Sharon's photography is the range of her work. You know, from landscapes to, I mean, truly, I mean, dangerous wildlife. You know, I mean, being near bears. I mean, you have to be careful. You know, her ability to capture, as you were kind of alluding to, the spirit of the people that she photographs, but she's doing that throughout all of her photography. It's really cool stuff. I didn't look through this section of Bhutan, but you know, I love the temples and the spirituality of all that. That's just really cool stuff. And
is that a civet's cat on the bottom left?
No, it's let me it's Brazil. So it's the little cat from Brazil. Let me
I'll Google it real quick.
And
Yeah.
the landscape of the moon with the tree, the bear tree is really, incredible composition. too. So it's very nice. Good work.
It keeps coming up with how to say cat in Spanish. It's a Brazilian short. Is it like a leopard or
I've just lost it. I'm getting older here.
wild native cat? Ocelot. There we go.
That's it. You got it.
Yep, ocelot. Yep.
Yeah.
I couldn't come up
Oh,
with it either.
the flash photography.
Yeah,
there.
cats are also really they're cool. The problem with lions is they're not really active during the day. So, cats have this window and I went to India for tigers, and that's very frustrating photography because they like to hunt by they hide. So, like with the lions in Africa, the guides will know this pride will be under this tree. And if they're not there, they're over here. But with tigers, they like to hide in the bush and just jump on their prey. And so you never know where they are.
And if they don't move, you're liable not to see them because they're
exactly
perfectly camouflaged for their environment. And
yeah.
I'll just say that I believe 3 people jumped in with the answer before we came up with it, ocelot. So
good. Thank you.
So people were jumping in. I didn't look, but yes.
Yeah.
All right. So, Sharon, I want to thank you so much.
Well, thank you for those suggestions on the binoculars. I really, they'll make such a huge difference. And I will take pictures and send them along of the event. So.
Oh, that would be awesome if we could use those, as to show the kids using them, and because I really believe in that binocular. And I sent you one of the other pairs.
Yep.
And the difference is remarkable. And I'm glad I got hooked up with you so that I could have an impact on these kids, because the other ones are going to benefit from it is they're going to get to, and the ones y'all are buying, the library is buying, they get to keep, right? These are not check out and use.
We're given 1 pair per family. So
nice.
And what's that organization? Give a shout out.
It's the Friends of Samuel's Public Library in Front Rural, Virginia.
There you go. All right. Sharon, do you have any last thoughts?
No, I just appreciate you setting this up and being able to share. And, if people either email me or find me on Facebook, and we can continue this conversation, because I love to share my images. That's the whole point of it is being able to share. This has been an incredible privilege for me to be able to go out and be able to see these different parts of the world and be able to be with these incredible different species. And so I love sharing that.
Yeah. So I just shared your email address. Since it's on the screen, I went and shared it in the chat, so it's
Okay.
there. I truly am glad we crossed paths, because your pictures bless me.
Thank you.
And for that, I mean, it's just they're emotional. Okay, they're technically exposed and manipulated, but just what comes out, you come out in these pictures, and we appreciate that very much. So, Scott, you have any final words?
No, it's just thanks again. It's awesome to have someone of such talent and passion to be on this program. So thank you very much.
Okay. So next week, while everybody's still watching, next week, if the timing works out, we're going to have one of our dealers on, and he's a telescope dealer, but he deals a lot in microscopes, but he also does some pretty amazing bird photography. Scott, I have shared some of his nighttime owl photos with you. What was your reaction when you saw a couple of those?
I was blown away. I was, well, I'm going to leave it to the audience to see what they think of it, but it was stunning. So you're going to want to see these.
It is stunning to see an owl doing its thing at night. And
Right.
How Kevin does it, he's going to share a little bit of that with us as well. But that's my plan for next week. If it doesn't work out, he'll be in a subsequent show and we'll just do some reader submissions. Again, everybody out there, you can email your photos to Explore Alliance. Scott, you want to put that in there?
Yeah, sure.
Explore Alliance at explorescientific.com. Send me your pictures and your backstory, because the stories of the photos, as we heard from Sharon, make the pictures they help the story of the pictures because you get some backstory about what's going on. So anyway, again, Sharon, thank you so much for being with us.
Okay. And that's a wrap. We will we'll be back, of course, next week on Thursday for the next On the Wing program. Tomorrow we have focus on astrophotography, and Tyler will have a special guest. So until that time, you guys keep looking up and keep birding.